Before we begin, tap like, share, and subscribe. It helps more people find deep dive stories like this, where fact, evidence, and witness voices cut through the myths. Whitechapel, London, autumn of 1888. A warren of courts and yards where the city's heart beats loudest in the dark. 5 names, 5 women, would enter history through the narrowest of doors and never leave. Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. They are the center of what we now call the Whitechapel murders, the Canonical Five, as much a category of evidence as a memorial of lives. This is a case soaked in ink as much as in blood. Press headlines, police memoranda, letters taunting the authorities, and witness statements that drift like smoke. Graphic violence is part of this history. We handle details with restraint and purpose. Never to sensationalize, always to understand. August 31st, 1888. Marianne Polly Nichols is found in Bucks Row. Throat cut, abdominal injuries. Signs that suggest not a quarrel in the night, but an attack with a purpose. The patrolman's beat notes, the doctor's estimates, and the inquest records fix the first act of a pattern. September 8th, Annie Chapman, the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. A witness, Elizabeth Long, says she saw Annie talking with a man around 5:30 a.m., a detail that shapes timelines, suspect height, and clothing in later theories. Long's testimony appears in the Chapman inquest record and has been analyzed against other testimony. September 30th, a night later called the double event. 2 murders in less than an hour. Elizabeth Stride on Berner Street, Catherine Eddowes in Mitre Square. Witnesses: Israel Schwartz may have seen Stride assaulted. Joseph Lowenda and others glimpsed a couple near Church Passage, November 9th. Mary Jane Kelly, indoors at 13 Miller's Court. A departure in setting and brutality. A witness named George Hutchinson came forward with a detailed account of a well-dressed man hours before. The statement survives in full. Whether it narrows the field or muddies it remains contested. These 5 murders, the Canonical Five, are joined in method and time. Police investigated many other assaults and homicides, but it's these 5 that history repeats and scrutinizes. Not out of fetish, but because they're the strongest common denominator when you strip rumor from record.
The murders unfold in a city that reads, "Enter the letters." The Dear Boss letter, dated September 25, 1888, arrives at the Central News Agency. It's here the name first appears in ink, Jack the Ripper. Soon, the saucy Jackie postcard, then the more chilling From Hell letter, delivered with half a human kidney. The effect was immediate. A murderer became a brand. Letters supercharged public fear and tabloid appetite. If some were hoaxes, they still shaped the hunt, redirecting resources and clogging channels with noise. The police published facsimiles, pleading for handwriting recognition. Authenticity remains debated. Linguistic and authorship analyses continue to question common authorship and authenticity. The letters changed the case. Public theatre pulling resources and giving the killer a durable stage name.
Behind the press glare, detectives worked beats, interviewed thousands, and tested the forensic limits of 1888. Dr. Thomas Bond compiled one of the earliest offender profiles, inferring anatomical knowledge. Surgeons and police surgeons closed ranks with best available method. Time of death estimates by temperature and digestion. The period's medico-legal autopsy practice was structured but inexact by modern standards. Years later, Sir Melville Macnaghten wrote a confidential memorandum listing 3 suspects. It's not a confession and not a conviction, more an internal weighing of probabilities. Druitt died by suicide in late 1888, timing that some argue coincides with the cessation of the murders. Kosminski, a Polish-Jewish immigrant barber, suffered mental illness and was committed to asylums. Ostrog was a career criminal. His candidacy weakens under scrutiny of whereabouts. On the ground, the investigation was a braid of patrol work and shoe-leather interviews. Lowenda's Mitre Square sighting and Long's Hanbury Street testimony tug suspects in different directions. Hutchinson's Baroque description reads suspiciously elaborate to some analysts. The memorandum reflects the thinking of one senior officer looking back, but it is not decisive proof against any of the 3. It belongs under leadership perspective, not case solved.
Before suspects and coded letters, there are 5 women whose lives formed the investigation's spine: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Kate Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly, Mary Ann Nichols, a mother navigating poverty and a drinking problem; Annie Chapman, known as Dark Annie, ill and struggling; Elizabeth Stride, a Swedish immigrant often called Long Liz; Catherine Kate Eddowes, who loved to sing in the street; Mary Jane Kelly, younger than the others, whose biography fragments between Dublin and Wales. They were Londoners in a volatile economy, surviving night to night. The lack of privacy, of safe lodging and of steady income made them vulnerable. We say their names not as a ritual, but because good investigation begins with victims, their routines, roots and relationships.
In modern years, a single object took center stage: a shawl said to have been found near Catherine Eddowes in Mitre Square. For over a century, its provenance was murky, allegedly seized by a police officer and passed down through a family. In 2014, a book publicized DNA claims. In 2019, a peer-reviewed paper described mitochondrial DNA sequences from the shawl. Mitochondrial DNA is not a unique fingerprint. It's inherited along maternal lines and can be shared by many unrelated individuals. Critiques quickly followed. Questions about provenance contamination across 130-plus years and statistical interpretations. The 2019 paper and a 2020 expression of concern point to missing data transparency and the need for caution. When new headlines declare the case solved, what they often mean is a claim renewed. Some experts consider the shawl analysis suggestive, but far from case closing. The DNA study does not carry the burden of proof required to close the case, but it does keep Kosminski among stronger suspects. Evidence ages. Stories get younger in the retelling. If the shawl holds answers, they remain probabilistic, not definitive.
Joseph Lowendy's glance at a couple near Church Passage, 1:35 a.m., September 30th, has the weight of proximity. He gave a limited description and insisted he wouldn't be able to recognize the man. That restraint matters. Elizabeth Long said she saw Annie Chapman talking with a man near 29 Hanbury Street around 5:30 a.m. Her timing conflicts with noises another witness, Albert Kadash, claimed to hear. Contradictions are the default. George Hutchinson's statement after Mary Jane Kelly's murder is the outlier for its granularity. Israel Schwartz told police he saw a man assault a woman near Dutfield's yard. Stride may have been interrupted. Each witness illuminates a different slice of the night. The aggregate matters more than any single account. The suspect list is a mirror. It reflects more about the looker than the looked at. But a few names stand up to better scrutiny than others. 1. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish-Jewish immigrant barber, recorded as mentally ill and institutionalized. He appears in Macnaghten's Memorandum and in Donald Swanson's notes as a serious suspect. The DNA shawl claims have refocused attention on him, but they're not a conviction. 2. Montague Druitt, died by suicide in December 1888. Timing makes him attractive to some. 3. Michael Ostrog, a con man. Records indicate he was likely incarcerated abroad. His candidacy weakens. The memorandum shows who Scotland Yard thought plausible in 1894, but it's not a dossier of courtroom evidence. 4. George Chapman, Severin Klosowski, a poisoner. Escalation argument debated. 5. Joseph Barnett, Kelly's partner. Questioned then released, evidence circumstantial. 6. Charles Lechmere, aka Charles Cross. Root anomalies noted by modern theorists. No decisive physical link. As with others, there's no decisive physical link. The Macnaghten Memorandum matters because it shows who Scotland Yard thought plausible in 1894, but it's still a memorandum, views assembled after the fact, not proof. Even now, the archive shifts. In 2024, a lost police file surfaced from the family of a detective. Finds like this don't rewrite the whole case, but they add texture, provenance trails, and confirmations. The National Archives still hold the touchstones, letters, police circulars, and case papers. Forensic science has changed more in the last 40 years than in the previous 400, but cold case DNA is a prayer answered only if the chain of custody is sound. With the Ripper shawl, the chain runs through oral family tradition and gaps in documentation. mTNA can exclude suspects more easily than it can uniquely identify one. In a city of immigrants and shared haplogroups, compatibility is not identity. It's a pointer, not a verdict. When the journal added an expression of concern, the take-home wasn't impossible, but interpret with caution. Headlines may say 100%, but criminal justice doesn't. Not here. Untold doesn't always mean secret. Sometimes it means unheard amid the noise. We can say this with confidence. 1. The victim's circumstances, homelessness for the night, lack of fourpence for a bed, alcohol and illness, structure the killer's opportunity window. 2. Policing in 1888 was procedurally constrained, crime scene preservation was proto-discipline. 3. Witness evidence was messy but valuable, the aggregate matters. 4. The letters changed the case, public theater, hoaxes and spectacle. 5. Modern DNA provides intriguing but not decisive signals. So what can we responsibly reconstruct? Nichols, August 31st, likely attacked quickly at street level. Chapman, September 8th, mutilation escalates. Elizabeth Long places her with a man around 5:30 a.m. Stride, September 30th. Throat cut, likely interrupted. Eddowes, September 30th, catastrophic injuries. Lowenda's near sighting proximate to time window. Kelly, November 9th, indoors at Miller's Court, most extensive mutilation. Hutchinson's statement is contested. Across the 5, we see late hours, alcohol, isolation, rapid attack, a blade with a competent hand, and a compact geographic comfort zone. The offender likely knew the alleys and beats and understood when the streets emptied. These reconstructions are conditional, built from testimony, timing, and surviving records. We know 5 women were killed in ways that connect, by time, place, and method. We know the police worked hard within their era's toolbox, creating internal documents like Macnaghten's Memorandum that continue to guide reasonable suspicion, even if they don't prove guilt. We know letters amplified fear and gave the crimes their enduring moniker. We know a shawl has been examined and mtDNA profiles reported with caveats from the scientific community. We don't know the killer's name, not with the certainty that history deserves and the victims warrant. Walk Whitechapel now and the gaslight is gone, but the lanes still lean close. The case lives because it is unfinished, because it forces us to examine how cities make victims, and how stories make monsters. A single candle beneath a street sign flickers. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. If a name is ever attached with courtroom certainty, it will be for their sake, not to crown a monster, but to close a ledger with respect. If you found value in a fact-driven, source-tested look at this case, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want a follow-up on the Lechmere root theory, the Hutchinson reliability debate, or a deep dive into the letters' forensic linguistics, say the word below.